Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 32 of the Giant Zone. You've got your co-host, Steve the Banker,
Greetings.
and myself, Fly Guy Carl. And tonight we've got a fun guest with us. We've got a guest that I think a lot of you know. Funny guy, diehard Giants fan, diehard Rangers fan, and yeah, he's a Yankees fan. So without further ado, Snacks, say hello, buddy.
What's up, everybody? Guys, thank you for having me on. I'm glad we could finally put this together. I know it's been a while in the making. Forget a couple weeks ago we had it scheduled and work got in the way, but you know what? I think it's destiny because now we're 2-0 and now I get to come on after 2 wins. So I think it works out pretty damn well. How are you guys?
That's right, baby. All good things to those who wait.
That's right. That's right.
And we're so happy you finally we're able to finally get you on. You know, we always we enjoy interacting with you on Twitter, and to finally have you on and talk with you in person, even better. And again, like we were discussing before we started here, looking forward to seeing you at the game next week.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. I don't know if you like Bud Light and Captain Morgan, but it'll be waiting. So
Jack Daniel's honey. And cigars.
And what?
Cigars.
Okay. You and Justin will get along just well.
There you go. There you go. So, Nikki, before we start the show, we just have our guests give a brief intro. I know a lot of people know you already from on Twitter, but let's just kind of stick to form. How'd you become a Giant fan, and then after that, what kind of game day traditions do you have?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my grandfather, huge diehard Giants fan, him and my father, big fans, and I just fell in love with the game and everything about the team. I used to worship Tiki Barber as a kid, and it just escalated my love for the team. As some of you may know, I probably well, no, I don't probably. I absolutely hate his guts nowadays, but that's just because I am a grudge holding asshole and I can't rid myself of hard feelings for anything that I've ever had hard feelings for because I'm a sick, twisted individual. And that's just how it is. But then over the course of the years, I just grew more and more fond and winning Super Bowl 42. I was 13, 14 years old. And then it was crazy. At 8 years old, we were in the Super Bowl, although getting destroyed by Baltimore. I was like, I want that feeling back. And just ever since then, it kind of took off to a skyrocketed fandom level. And now they're the number one priority in my life. Nice. Giants, family, and then breathing in that order. So it's not the world's greatest thing. And it's probably not great with the women, but listen, I can't change who I am now. I'm almost 30. It's not changing. So I just hope if I ever have a kid that my wife's not in labor on NFL Sunday. So
Max, could you ever be with a woman who's not a Giant fan? Not to ruin the rest of your dating life for forever, but I just, you know.
So that's a great question. And I would
there's probably people out there that want to set you up, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You're already off the rails.
Crazy ginger. That's what every woman wants. Crazy, psychotic ginger Giant fan.
It's passion, baby. It's passion.
Yeah, that's what I like to believe, but I've been told it's psychotic. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. As long as it's not the Cowboys or Eagles, I think I could live with it.
I like that.
But I prefer my women not to like football at all. So
really,
here's why. Because I think unless I meet my match, that's just as crazy as me, which then is probably a toxic relationship. So we don't want that. But I think I'm going to be able to explain to a woman what this fandom really is. And when they watch me watch a game, that they may not understand it to begin with, but over the course of time, I could teach them. And I dated a girl for 5 years and she had no idea about football and nothing like that. By like year 2, she's like, okay, I get it. I get it. Sunday, that's your day. Giants are on, that's your day. So I think that would be my preference. But as long as you're not a Giants or a Cowboys or Eagles fan, I could tolerate you. But if you're a fan of either of those two teams, get the fuck out. It's not happening.
I will say, if you can if you can find a woman that can match your passion for sports in general, especially if it's your teams, keep her. It's
Yeah.
nothing better. I'm telling you, there's nothing better.
Yeah, that's that would be difficult to find, but
They're out there.
if they're out there and they come along, I welcome with open arms.
You might find her walking around the parking lot of Monday Night Football.
That would be a dream scenario, because then I could always do my dream of getting proposed at a Giants game. So
there you go.
There's a bunch of them on Twitter. I mean, you got to just put yourself out there, brother.
yeah. Oh man.
Hey, what about Carl asked you about game day traditions? What about
Yes. So game day tradition. So I have season tickets. So home games. We park in L16. We drink a ton. We eat a ton. We laugh. We hug. We kiss. Listen to great music. So that's my favorite thing to do in the world is go to a Giants tailgate when we're on the road. From 10 to 11 o'clock, I go on a morning cruise. I listen to all my music, and then from 11 to 1, I really get dialed in. I'm home. I'm checking my fantasy teams, some bets, whatever. Read the New York Post, because I like to read. I like a visual thing. I put the phone down, clear my mind, read the sports page, and then I watch my dad and my brother in our man cave. And
Nice.
that's in Bergen County, New Jersey. I don't live there anymore, but every weekend I will go up and watch with them. And I wear my Giants ugly sweater for road games or games I'm not at. Well, I'm always at the home games, but you know what I mean. And I just think it's a lucky sweater, which it's not, because we've been so god awful for like the last 5 years. So I'm thinking that maybe I need a new sweater. But yeah, it's very simple. There's nothing crazy to it. Saturday night, I always go to sleep in my Eli jersey the day before game day. So I guess this week it'll be Sunday that I go to sleep in my Eli jersey. And that's really it. I'm pretty superstitious guy. So if we win the week before, you best believe that the same underwear are going on the next week without being washed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a liar. Can't lie to you.
Appreciate that. I feel closer to you.
Yeah. Listen, it's how it goes. Same socks go on. No, I'm not a dirtball. I wash everything, but they do go on.
Next, plateaued, man.
So tradition wise, there's nothing. Game day tradition is nothing too crazy. The tailgates are always fun. We've met. And Carl, I'm really excited for you to come and meet like a lot of people that on Twitter. That's over the last year. And then last week, that was really my favorite part, is getting to know the people that you interact with on an app.
Yeah.
And people who talk shit to you before, they come up, they're like, you give them a shot and they're like, wow, you aren't such an asshole. I'm like, no, I'm not. But it's just it's really just a very cool, unique thing, and something that I genuinely love doing. So those are my traditions. Like I said, nothing crazy, but all essential to my fandom.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people have reached out to me on Twitter. It's like, hey, stop by. So, I'll try to see as many people as I can. But yeah, I'm flying up Sunday, spend a day at my brother's house, watching football all day, and then we'll beat the game Monday night. So we'll make sure we try to put something together between now and game time, so we can definitely meet up while we're up there.
Absolutely. Yep. It's just like you said, we'll exchange numbers. We'll text on Monday. We'll figure it out. And whenever you're ready to come by, we doors always open.
Looking forward to it, brother, and thank you.
Of course.
So let's kind of get into it now. Figure we'll start with a recap of Sunday's game. Another good game, another win. Wasn't pretty for the entire game, but they got the job done. It was good enough to get the job done. Steve, why don't you start? What are some of your biggest takeaways from Sunday?
So it's funny. Everybody's been talking about how happy they are with the coaching. But the thing that frustrated me for the second week in a row was I thought Kafka, and of course Dable, to the extent that he's involved in pregame planning, started off trying to be, for lack of a better word, I said it last week, just too cute. That wildcat play. I mean, they had the turnover right from the get-go. They're down and they're calling all these plays where the defense is crowding the box. They have a short field and they're doing like jet sweeps and wildcat. They did that wildcat play. Like, what are you guys doing? I love though how, unfortunately for the second week in a row they had to do it, the halftime adjustments, Kafka, Wink on the defense. I still have a man crush on Wink. I said it in the preseason. I said it in the offseason when he was hired. I was like, this guy is going to change how we do things. He's going to bring it back to the way Giants football used to be.
Yes.
Much respect for Patrick Graham. Love Patrick Graham, but my God, he always likes to say pressure breaks pipes. Just to have someone that's going to be aggressive, we're going to dictate, create turnovers. I mean, that's Giants football, right? That's Giants defense. So was a little disappointed in the beginning again with our offense and the game plan and the scheming, but so happy with halftime and the adjustments they made. Offensive line, I was shocked. I was wrong. I thought that they were going to really be able to run the ball again. And quite frankly, I thought they were going to have an easier time running the ball than they did against the Titans last week. I still think the Titans are probably the best defense we're going to face in the first 5 weeks. But then when they couldn't run the ball, there should have been tremendous opportunities. We all saw some of the things going around Twitter the last 2 days about all the open receivers that Daniel missed. So I have some concerns about the offense. I think everybody does, but a win is a win. Special teams stepped up finally, turnovers, coverage. We're so lucky to have Graham Gano. Obviously, it goes without saying. I couldn't be any happier than to be 2-0, but I think both things can be true at the same time. I think you can be ecstatic to be 2-0, and it's okay to have some concerns. And obviously, I know we'll get into some of those.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway is the coaching. You could just, this coaching staff has their fingerprints all over this team. To your point, Steve, started slow again. I remember when Belton recovered the fumble on the kickoff. I said, all right, let's put the ball in the air and go right into the end zone. And they came out conservative. And it was disappointing, extremely disappointing. And then they get another turnover. And then again, and I just remember, we had 2 turnovers deep in their territory and it's only 6-0. And then worried about, is that going to come back and bite us later?
Usually does.
Yeah, right. So, but they again, at halftime, they turned it around. They made some adjustments. But here's what I like is that the messaging coming out of this locker room is so positive. Brian Daboll, we're scrappy, but we don't waver. And you could just see it's permeating right through this entire roster. And you keep hearing they're not afraid of failure. And Julian Love even came out and said, in years past, like on the play where McCaffrey had the 49-yard run, Love missed him. And he said, I fell down, or it wasn't that one. It was one of his run. I think it was a 12-yard run or something, where Love slipped, but he got back up and he made the play. And he said, in previous regimes, I would have said, I'm going to get reamed for that because they're going to see it on film. And he said, now we're just expected to make the play. And you could just see the difference in coaching styles and what that's doing on the roster. To your point, Wink is just unbelievable. We definitely made the right choice with the defensive coordinator. He had 6 defensive backs that played 70% of the snaps. When was the last time a Giants defense did that? They had Xavier McKinney as a hybrid linebacker.
Yep.
Who had never been up in the box before. And he and Julian Love rotated that role the entire game, and it paid off. And they said that their key was to take McCaffrey out of the game, which they did. All right, he ran for 102 yards. He had 49 of it came on one run. He really wasn't that big of a factor in the passing game. So they're really Wink is just doing a great job. And again, he's doing it without Ojulari and Thibodeau, which is extremely impressive. All right. Daniel Jones on the offensive side of the ball wasn't pretty, but he got the win. He's making good decisions. All right, he had the interception against Tennessee. It's the only turnover he had. He didn't have any turnovers on Sunday. He's making better decisions. He's protecting the ball. look, Daniel Jones knows he's playing for his career. He's not making it easy for them to write him off. He's going down with a fight. I guess we couldn't really ask for any more than that. Again, it's not pretty. He's not putting up Justin Herbert numbers. I readily admit that. But again, he's doing better. If he keeps playing like this, I don't care. As long as they keep winning, I don't care. I just want wins. The numbers will come. I'm not worried about it. But again, and Steve, special teams, of course, Graham Gano is just clutch. He's clutch. And I was reading somewhere where he was going after that last field goal, and Daboll just looked at him and said, "Go." And he said, "Can you make this?" And Gano said, "Yeah, no problem." And he laughed. And then when he got on the field and he saw how long it was and he felt the wind in his face, he said, "Oh, I got to make this. This is not going to be easy." So all in all, though, again, did I expect 2-0? No, I did not. I completely did not. Pretty or not, I'm happy where we are. I just love the coaching imprint on this roster, and I expect it to just, Steve, like you said, we've got our coach, we've got our GM, we've got our coaches.
Yeah.
And I think the arrow is clearly pointing up, and it's just going to continue to get better over time. Snacks?
Yeah, I there's really not much I disagree with, nothing at all. I think the mainstay of what we gathered from at least the first 2 weeks, especially on Sunday, is this coaching staff. It's really it's a true change of the guard from the last few regimes, and everybody, you could just tell there's a different vibe, and everybody's bought in so much more in just 2 weeks than they were in 2 years with Judge or 2 years with Shermer. There's just this different aura to this team, and they're playing with confidence, and they just won 2 games that in the last 5 years, 9 out of 10 times they lose. They find a way to lose.
Yeah.
Now they're finding ways to win. When was the last time we won a game where we ended in victory formation? Like Daniel goes out and no, it's the offense is not pretty right now. And yes, Steve, you were saying he missed some open guys, and that's going to happen. It's a second game in a completely new system with 4 new offensive line starters. It's going to take time, regardless. And we all know Jones has his deficiencies. He's not perfect. He's never going to be perfect, but he's not costing us games. He's not losing us football games. I think right now we're winning these 2 games, and I think the majority of the credit needs to be put on this coaching staff, because they are putting these guys in the absolute right place at all times. I was listening to Julian Love on the radio today with Tiki and Tierney on WFAN, and they kind of asked him about like Wink and the coaching staff, and he's saying he's never seen anything like this. He goes, this coaching staff, from the position coaches to Wink to the head coach, are so dialed into putting these guys in the best position to succeed, and not in positions that the coaching staff, like where they know the strengths of their players, where to put them. And we're seeing that especially on the defensive side of the ball, because, I mean, let's be real. The linebacking core is extremely thin, to put it lightly. They're missing their 2 best edge rushers. They lost a top 10 cornerback in James Bradbury. They lost Blake Martinez, like obviously cuts and whatever. But to be able to allow 33 points in 2 weeks is pretty astonishing. And this is against a Derrick Henry offense in Tennessee, where they've run at will over the whole league over the last 2 years, 3 years. Christian McCaffrey, who I am stunned at how we held this guy in the passing game with the linebackers in coverage that we have. How he didn't eat us alive blows my mind. 102 yards rushing, yeah, sure, but what was it, 49 on one carry?
Yes.
So they held him in check all game, and I want to give a huge shout out to Adoree Jackson. He's unbelievable.
Yes, played very well.
He's playing out of his mind right now, and a lot of people that I've seen on Twitter like, oh, he's overpaid, a terrible contract. Well, it's almost looking like a bargain right now. If he can stay healthy, he's a true number 1 cornerback. But just everybody on that defense side of the ball is playing great. Andrew Thomas is, what do we even say about him anymore? The guy's an absolute stud. But yeah, other than the coaching, I think just overall the feelings and the vibes that we're getting from this team is like I haven't seen in maybe a decade. So this is a really, really exciting time. And Carl, like you said, we got our coach, we got our GM, we got the staff. I think this is the future is finally looking bright, and I could not be happier.
So let me ask you both a question while we're on coaches. You know, like I said, and Snacks, like you pointed out, you know, the players seem really happy with the way the coaches are using them. So do you think it might be a combination of, do you think it's because they believe in these coaches more? And these coaches are either, whether it be communicating better, treating them better, call it what you want, or is it just because the coaches have better systems? So, and I'm basing this between, let's say, what we've seen in previous regimes, especially under under Judge, and now. What do you guys think it is? Either one of you, or both of you, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a true testament to both. I think clearly both systems are much better on both sides of the ball. I don't want to take away from Patrick Graham. He did a lot with very little, and he was a very good defense coordinator for us. But it was clear that it wasn't working. The bend but don't break wasn't working. And Wink's aggressive style, I think that fits. I think you almost need to be aggressive when you're lacking talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think you need to be more aggressive and take chances. Like, you're going to get beat. Yes, I know that. But if you could orchestrate pressure or orchestrate turnovers, you're going to be in every ball game. And that's what Wink has brought to this team. And then offensively, arguably the two best offenses in football are Kansas City and Buffalo. And the offensive coordinator and the head coach come from those systems. You could tell pre-snap motion, the crossing routes, all these things are so much different. The systems itself are such a huge part. And I think on just a personality, just a personality factor, all these guys are like likable, relatable.
Yeah.
You think anybody was sitting in the room liking Jason Garrett? I know there was some good Joe Judge moments in the beginning, but you can't sit there and tell me that those players wanted to go out and have a beer with him. Patrick Graham is about as dull as the day is long. And again, I'm not ripping anybody, but you got these coaches are just relatable. You got Wink Martindale in a hat, sunglasses with a gold chain out. Like, these guys, to me, is just so much more relatable to these players, and couple that with a lot better systems. There's your reason for success right there.
Steve?
I agree with everything you both said. The only couple quick thoughts I have is, listen, number one, winning cures a lot of problems. So I don't know if it would be quite as beautiful of an environment if we weren't 2-0, but we have to at least acknowledge that. But I think, listen, I played high school football. Carl, I think you did. Snacks, I didn't bother asking, so I apologize.
That's okay. I played.
All right, cool. So listen, I'm not speaking from personal experience myself. Like, I have an amazing father, but I think when you're in high school and even college, a lot of guys almost are looking for that father figure. You get to the NFL and the pros, these guys are grown-ass men, and they don't all have children, but they have adult lives, adult responsibilities. One thing that's been common amongst a lot of professional athletes I've seen over the decades, whether it was the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, is the locker room figures it out eventually. They see through the BS, right? And I think that the experience that Dable, Wink, and even Kafka has, who was a successful college quarterback, played quarterback in the pros, there's a legitimacy that they bring with their experiences and the success they've had elsewhere. And I think these NFL players know that with the preparation and what they're being taught, that it's going to work. I think most of these NFL players have been around long enough, and they're smart enough to know what works and what doesn't work. And I think they want a piece of that. And then the final thing I'll say is, in the old regime, when you had guys where the GM and the coach weren't even on the same page, they weren't hired. These guys know, listen, this may be their last stop. They may be out of the league next year. And I'm sure guys like Golladay are laughing all the way to the bank. But for the most part, you have a lot, and we can get into that, but you have a lot of players that are like, listen, Dable and Shane are simpatico.
Mm-hmm.
We can't F with that. they're the boss. And Shane and Dable are on the same page. We know why. One was hired by the other, et cetera. The assistant coaches are all part of this. So I think there's a fear factor that goes into that as well. Like, hey, these guys are in control. The ownership has them here. They were hired together. Either I'm going to make this work or I'm going to be looking for another team next year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Steve, that's a really good point. And you got to remember the majority of this roster, because we had no cap space, couldn't really sign anybody outside of 1-year deals. The majority of this roster was not drafted or brought in by this regime.
Right.
So they're absolutely playing for either a contract next year with this team or with somebody else. So that fear, that's a really good point.
And I think it's, Carl, maybe you remember, I brought this up once, but now I forget. Snacks, maybe you know, I think it's like the third youngest or second youngest roster in the NFL.
It's right up there. Yeah.
And
I
it
don't know if
changes like week to week when they cut a guy and bring a guy. So, I'm
it's
not,
right up there.
but it's something like that. I mean,
Top 5.
Yeah.
And Steve, you do bring up a good point, because Dable even said they asked, and I know we're going to get into Golladay in a moment, but they asked, he was asked about Golladay only having 2 snaps Sunday, and if that decision came down from Shane, or if it was his decision, or if he had to clear it with Mara and Shane. And he said, Joe Shane and I speak about everything all week long about this team and in this building. So we are in lockstep together. That's a huge statement. And that resonates, to your point, through the locker room.
And did you see, not to interrupt, but did you guys both see Shane was standing next to Dable?
Yes.
As when they had the post game in the locker room? Yeah. Shane is, and people were putting some funny things on Twitter. I'm sure you guys saw, like, he was right there. When did you see the Voldemort, the old guy, ever?
Right. And so there's that. Look, I watched the Raider Cardinal game Sunday. And as good as Patrick Graham was, when Arizona started to figure out what was working, they showed Patrick Graham on the sideline with his play sheet in front of him, and he just had to look on his face like he had no way to stop him. He had no solutions and no way to stop him.
He wasn't blitzing. He was playing the same defense he played when he was here.
And that's exactly where I was going to go, Steve. The play that took Carolina out of this game for us on defense was the sack on Baker Mayfield right before the 2-minute warning. Who made the sack? Julian Love. Can either of you tell me when we've had a defensive back or a safety make a game-ending sack?
Maybe Jabril did it once. I don't think so, though.
He did. I don't believe he did.
Patrick Graham was never sending any defensive backs into the quarterback. No.
So you could just see these guys are playing freely and they're loving it. And to the point that you both made, they're just playing to these guys' strengths. But they're also saying, hey, you want to do this? Can you? And the players are living up. Yeah, we can. And the players are living up to their word. How about 3rd and 1? And Kafka calls a handoff to Gary Brightwell for 14, 16.
Crazy.
His only play of the game.
What a call.
Non-special teams.
Right.
What a call.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's nuts.
Right? So, I mean, this is just, it's crazy what an impact the coaching, a good coaching staff makes on the team. I mean,
can I ask you guys a quick question? I'm a little rough on what I said in the beginning about Kafka and Dable with their beginning of the game offense, because that's pre-game planning, right? And I stand by it.
It is a concern, though. I thought that was
But now I'm self-editing, because I'm going back to some of the shows, Carl, that we did earlier, before the season and during the draft, and when we were talking in those days about how excited we were about this staff and et cetera, et cetera. I remember one of the things. So my question to you is one of the things that I was excited about was that Dable is letting go of his ego. Because remember in the beginning where everyone was like, "Ooh, is Dable going to call plays?" And the fact that he said, "You know what? I'm going to give that up. It's more important for me to have the full view of the game and the team during a game. I'm going to let Kafka be the OC." He didn't say it early on, but we learned during the preseason that was going to. I feel like my question to you both is, I feel like Kafka's learning on the job a little bit, but we see the brilliance. We see what he does. The play to Bellinger that 14-yard touchdown,
Gorgeous design.
the fullback draw to Brightwell that you just talked about.
Yes.
Like he gets a couple of gems each game already, the first two games. Do you think we're just going to see Kafka get better and better? Maybe I just need to shut up and get more patient.
Go ahead, Snacks.
Yeah, I think he's 100% going to get better as the season goes on. And the more that these offensive players get comfortable in this new system, the better I think the results are going to be. The more points that we're going to put up, the more nice designs like the Bellinger play that we're going to see. A lot of it will rely on Daniel getting more comfortable, which I think he will too. But this is Kafka's first year calling plays, first year offense coordinator. It's always going to take time, but we've seen in 2 weeks the short order of brilliance that a lot of potential that could come out of this offensive scheme. So, Steve, to answer your question, I'm absolutely confident as the season goes on that he will get more comfortable in calling plays, and we will see a much, I'm not going to say high-powered offense, but an offense that is definitely going to be able to move the ball a lot better than we have seen in years past and even in the first 2 weeks.
So I'm going to just piggyback onto what Snacks just said. I think the word that you were looking for there, Snacks, we're going to eventually see a more fluid offense. It's just
Fluid, great. Yeah, great word.
So I think that's what, and here's my answer to your question, Steve, is this. We've said in previous shows that you and I've discussed that, we kind of agree that the opponent is going to dictate the game plan. So I also think the game is going to dictate where the changes in the game plan are. So to the point that you made about coming out, you were a little harsh on Kafka. I actually think that was a fair criticism. I'll tell you why. We all know the first couple offensive plays are scripted. It's just, That's football.
Yeah.
However, I don't think they were scripted for recovering a fumble at the Carolina 30-yard line, 20-yard line, whatever it was.
That's fair. That's a good point.
So I think that he could have really changed up the script right there. And I think experience and comfort with doing what he's doing will eventually lead to that. But
agreed.
Again, end of the day, they got points out of it, and at the end of the day, they won the game. So, and
I just need
they won the game because they made adjustments.
So I need to be more patient.
But I think it's fair.
Patience. Asking us Giants fans to be patient is no easy task after the last decade or so. So I can understand.
Right.
And it is frustrating. You get the home crowd's jumping, going crazy. You get a fumble on the kickoff. You're right there. You want to score 7. You want to set that tone right away, and everything just stalls. So I thought that was a fair criticism. Absolutely.
Agreed. And again, you know what? It was also against an opponent that going in, we all felt we can beat. And I'm sure the coaches had to be thinking, this is a winnable game.
Yeah.
So, I think the pressure was on there a little bit too. So, it'll come. I'm trying to temper my criticisms and some of the things I put out there and say, but now that I've got a taste of winning and got a taste of what this coaching staff can do, it's getting increasingly more difficult to not be a little less patient and more, hey, look, you got to win here, you got to attack here. So you're fine. It was a fair criticism. I don't think
I thought so too.
Anything else about week one or Snacks? I know you got some things you want to bring up as well. So I think we may have covered them. So in a minute there, anything else about week one that you guys want to touch on quickly?
No, I think that was a good recap. Again, just overall excitement of being 2-0 is crazy.
Yeah.
Talking about this team at how bad they've been over the last few years was never easy. So this is a welcoming experience. So all the little things that we can nitpick feels much better to do when you're 2-0.
So here's a final question. This just kind of came to me. So let's let ourselves assume that we beat Dallas Monday night. Okay. Not pretty, but we get the win. What do you think the temperature of the Giant fan base will be? Is it still going to be negative, or is it going to be, okay, we're 3-0, hey, we're 3-0 and we beat Dallas? What do you guys anticipate if that happens?
I think it's going to be scorching hot because I know what you're saying. There's still the negative people on Twitter, and
Yes.
people may say I'm negative, but I tweet with what's the word I'm looking for? Impulse. So if you guys ever see my Twitter, don't pay any attention to it. Please don't. But I think it would be scorching hot. And I don't care if it's Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott, or Joe Montana. You beat Dallas on Monday Night Football in your home stadium to go to 3-0 atop the division. You better be goddamn happy, like ecstatic, because you know what? And I'm not looking ahead. I'm not. You get to 3-0, you're staring at another home game against Chicago is a very winnable game before you have two very tough ones on the road. So this is a huge game. The place is going to be rocking. You had our coach come out and email season ticket holders to wear white.
Yep.
Like there's a different feel. And if we can get a win, I don't care if it's the prettiest win in the world or the god ugliest win in the world. You get a win Monday Night Football in your home building against Dallas to go 3-0. These fans better be scorched earth happy,
Steve?
or I'll kill you.
Winning, there's been multiple coaches over the years that have said, Tom Coughlin, Bill Parcells back in the day, I remember said it, and you hear guys say it now, winning an NFL game, like just winning an NFL game for any NFL team is hard.
Yeah.
I think that, and I said this last week, if we make the playoffs, like somehow, and I'll stand by what I said. I don't know if Daniel Jones is the guy. I don't want to be Mr. Negative, but that being said, I actually think he can lead us to a wild card. I really do. The games are there's winnable games that can get, okay. I said it may be if we actually make the playoffs somehow, that would be insane. But I don't even know if we need to wait that long is why I'm bringing all this up. I think this team is ready to be the hottest ticket in town. Snacks, I'm a die. I went in 1996, I had tears running down my face when the Yankees won the World Series. Mattingly was my favorite player. I watched Dave Winfield and Ricky Henderson when I was younger. I mean, I can name the players. I had a glove, but the Yankees were my life. And the Yankees are having an incredible year with Judge, et cetera. The Rangers, I'm not a Ranger fan. I'm a Devils fan. I'll just say it for everybody that's watching. But you know what? Props to the Rangers. The Rangers haven't had this much excitement since Matto. I mean, every Ranger fan should be like, let's get the season going already. Let's get it going. There's a lot in this city to be excited about. The Jets fans after this past week are like, hey, I mean, the Mets, listen, the Mets fans are like, but I think this team, if they start really winning some games and they're like 4-1, we can look ahead. This will be the hottest ticket in town.
Oh, and I could not agree more. And I am living in the area. I'm a big New York sports radio fan. So that's all I listen to. And they've been just like itching to talk good football. They don't want to sit there in week 10 talking about the draft. We don't want to talk about the draft. You guys don't want to come on your show talking about the draft. Steve, I couldn't agree more. If this team is relevant down the stretch and fighting for a division title, a wild card berth, it's going to be insane. It's going to be the talk of the town, back pages of the Post, the Daily News, all over the radio. Shit, you're even going to see ESPN talking about the Giants. It's going to be that exciting.
And
so
let me tell you where you know what is going to get crazy. One of my 4 things going into the season, guys, just to Carl, to refresh, and Snacks if you missed it, early in our show's history, we started talking about what does success look like? And there were 4 things for me. And none of the 4 had to do with making the playoffs. None of the 4 had to do with our record. One of those 4 things I said was finding and identifying young players. And one of the things I'm so excited about, and I think all fans should be so excited about, Carl, you mentioned it, is this staff. But what we're seeing is their ability to identify and find young players and make them better, put them in Snacks, like you said, put them in a position to succeed. And I think it's not just winning, and maybe we don't win pretty, but I think what we're going to start getting excited about is some of these players. And I think the reason some of us, not all, because there's just some haters, but the reason some of us are so hard on Daniel is because we want him to succeed, because we've been so invested in him for so long, it seems. We want him to hit those open receivers. We want to see Kadarius rip off an 80-yarder, and break ankles of all these idiots on these other teams like that he makes look ridiculous with how he breaks their ankles. Like, we want to get behind these players. So all of that to say, it's not just the record and winning, because that's obviously where it has to start. But I think we're starting to see some of these players that the fans are going to get behind. And it's not like we have a crazy number of offensive players that are making. There's not a lot of Pro Bowlers on there right now. You know what I'm saying?
You could argue there's only one. Well, two. Saquon will probably make the Pro Bowl, but Andrew Thomas, who's very well could be an All-Pro.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Could be.
and he's going to be the backbone of, Daniel's career, if he's going to be the guy moving forward or the next quarterback. And
let me ask you both a quick question. If I told you before the season we were 2-0 with a potential chance to be 3-0, not to jinx us, and I'd said Wan'Dale Robinson had nothing to do with that, would you have been like, what? If we end up being 2-0, Wan'Dale is an integral part of it. All of that without Wan'Dale.
I would have called you crazy. I would have called you crazy. Even no Wan'Dale, whatever you said, even if you said 2-0 with the chance to be 3-0, I still would have called you crazy, even if Wan'Dale was going off, because I just did not expect this. And how could anybody expect it? Like you were saying, to your 4 main points, and one of them being that, and none of them having to do with making the playoffs or winning games. Going into this year, and as a fan, it's very hard to process that. But I think most of us knew that this year was probably never going to be about winning. It was going to be about bringing in a new structure, a new culture, and building for the future and what's to come, and just seeing the progress from young guys and everything like that. But I mean, this is insane. Now you go 3-0, things start changing a little bit.
Yeah.
Expectations change. It's an ever-changing league. So, God damn it.
And here's what I'm waiting for. So far, the 2 teams that we've beaten are a combined 0-4, right? And
that's why people are saying we're the worst 2-0 team of all time.
There you go. You just went where I was going. You know what? The difference here, again, as we said earlier, is we all agreed these were 2 games that for the last 10 years, we would have found a way to lose.
Absolutely. 9 times out of 10.
That's the biggest difference right now, is that, you know what? Not only have they found a way to win, this team has not quit. This team fights. They believe in themselves. I'm telling you, they're a dangerous team right now. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what Nick Wright says, which I'm still waiting for Nick Wright to step on our offer to come on the show and debate, but that's okay. We're waiting for you, Nick. I don't care what any of these guys say. At the end of the day, they don't ask you how you won. They ask you if you won. And that's the bottom line. We are 2-0. I don't care about who we beat. We're 2-0. We've won the games we've had to win. Let's keep it going.
These guys, these guys are believing. Yep, they're believing.
They're believing them. Look, Nick, you said it perfectly, Snacks. This year was about rebuilding the foundation, right? Building from the inside out, seeing what they had, seeing who their guys are going to be going forward, implementing these systems. And you know what? They're checking all the boxes right now.
Yeah.
So let's just get on board and enjoy it and feel good about it.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And we all know we're not going 17-0. We're going to lose. We're probably going to have a 3-game losing streak somewhere in there. We're going to come back down to earth. It's going to happen. It's fine. But I don't think you're ever going to see us get blown out. I think we're going to be right there because these players believe this coaching staff is so good. They're going to put them in position to be in every game. It's going to be about execution. Yeah, we're going to have some heartbreaking losses, but we're still right there. We're right on that cusp. And knowing we're right there with a GM that had 0 resources in cap space to sign anybody of significance. He had 2 top 7 picks. That's awesome. It's great. But he still has yet to make his print on this team. And when he gets more resources and he gets that cap space, and these young players that were here before are developing in front of our eyes, future is unbelievably bright.
This roster is still a work in progress.
Yes, and it's going to be for this year and next year. It's going to be, but we are finally, we have entered the 21st century of a GM and coach who are both living in the now of 2002 NFL as opposed to 1990, and on the trajectory up, and I couldn't be more happy.
Let me just remind you guys, and for everybody watching and listening, Buffalo is in over 6 years in their quote unquote rebuild. And I have a lot of really good buddies that are diehard Buffalo fans. They grew up there. They've been traveling so far this season from South Florida to go to the road game they went to. The first 2 years in Buffalo, they were like, what the hell are these guys doing? They drafted a linebacker. They drafted they weren't great at putting an offensive line together initially. Like, it took them a little while, and things changed with Josh Allen. And it took a couple years. He was terrible his rookie year. He was
God awful.
He was nothing like he is the player today. And the last thing is, things really started to change when they got Stephon Diggs.
Yes.
It wasn't like they were this. So they're in year 6 going into year 7. It's not like they haven't been to a Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. Forget winning, but they haven't been to a Super Bowl, and people are still like, oh, Buffalo. Let's give these guys a chance.
Yep, absolutely. Give them a chance. Give them time too, because I'm sick of the turnover in head coaching and switching the cycle where you're firing Shermer, keeping Gettleman. No more. Give these guys time. Let them build it the right way. Joe Shane helped build what the juggernaut Bills are now. Dable helped mold what Josh Allen is now. Give them time. It's going to work.
Amen.
Please.
And that's the hot ticket in New York right now.
Wait. God, I don't know if you saw my message. My laptop dies real quick. I'm just getting my charger. Hot ticket Buffalo? Fuck Buffalo.
It won't be too hot in a couple months when it's 30 below up there.
Oh my God. The snow and the wind. Oh.
But I'll tell you that Josh Allen's got a cannon for him. They looked very impressive last night. They just they have the look of the team that they know they're good and they want it, and they're going after it, and they're just they're not going to be denied.
You know what these teams have, and it's not just Buffalo. It's there's a number of teams out there offensively have it. It's what they call timing patterns, right? It's the ability for the quarterback to turn and throw. And Eli used to be really good at this. Yeah. He would just get that ball, turn and throw. It's like Wayne Gretzky used to say, I pass the puck to where the guy's going to be. Right. It's that timing route that only happens when guys play together for a number of years in a particular system for a number of years. And I guess I try to remind myself of that as well with Daniel. It's a new system. Like the Josh Allens of the world have the ability to, I know Stephon Diggs is going to be there. I know you know what I mean? The timing pattern. They're going to be because we play together, we practice together countless times, and our team just doesn't have that yet.
No, Daniel doesn't have that luxury of a top flight wide receiver where he could just say, okay, I know he's going to be there. So
maybe that's a good segue to some of your questions. I know you're
why don't we get into some of your questions there, Snacks?
Yeah. All right. So we spent a good portion of the opening segment and the recap talking about the coaching. So we speaking of wide receivers, we got to discuss it. I mean, we're paying Kenny Golladay $21.2 million a year to be a number 1 wide receiver, and he's playing 2 snaps. I don't know if I've ever, maybe in baseball, when these players are getting paid so much money, and like a Chris Davis from Baltimore, or somebody like this is just not playing because they're bad. But in football, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, where he just can't get on the field. Yeah. He maybe looks washed. I don't know what goes on in practice. But what are your guys' thoughts on just Dable and this coaching staff completely shutting him out, playing David Sills and Richie James? I'm sorry, I'm nothing against them, but Kenny Galladay's had 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns in a season before. Like, this guy has been a big game receiver. So I want to hear your thoughts on just this whole Golladay situation in total, and what you see moving forward if they do just eat the bullet and bite the bullet and cut him, or I don't know what you do here. So I'd love to get you guys' takes on that.
So I'll start off on this one, Steve.
Yep.
Week 1, Richie James played 42 snaps. Kadarius Toney played 7 snaps. This past Sunday, David Sills played 67 snaps. Kenny Golladay played 2 snaps. So I think there's a little bit of a message in there. I think behind the scenes, here's what I think. All right. These coaches seem to have the attitude, those that earn the playing time will get the playing time. Okay. But I also do think, and that ties into where I'm going, where, hey, look, you know what? You're going to see, it's almost like playing a hot hand. So I think you're going to see if Kadarius Toney starts working, or if Kenny Golladay, I apologize. And I don't know. I haven't seen the practices. I don't know if he's dogging it in practices. I don't know if he can't get the play. I don't know. I would have to believe, though, if he comes in and starts tearing it up during the week, he's going to get the snaps. He's going to get the ball. So, again, I think Daboll's putting it out there. Hey, you want to play, earn it.
Yep.
It's funny because I remember after week 1 saying, I wonder if Kadarius Toney really had the team attitude as opposed to the me attitude. And one of the quotes that I read after Sunday's game, which really, really caught me by surprise and was happy to see, was from Kadarius Toney saying, hey, it's all about team. At the end of the day, we're all playing, we're winning. We're all going to do our job, whether we're out there or not. If we're not out there, then we're going to support the team. But this is about the team, not the individual. So in as much as I think Galladay's been a huge disappointment, and I think that's part of the problem with all the hatred aimed at him, is just there's such a big number there that we're tying up a lot of resources where we can get other players that would fit better into this guy, and he's not even on the field. And I think a lot of the hatred comes just from his contract alone. So look, again, at the end of I think it's been a disappointment, to answer your question directly. I think he's going to be here for the rest of the season, and his playing time is just going to develop, or just go with if he earns it. That's my take on him.
Yeah. I like you were saying, and no, real quick, and I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I would assume they look at him on the practice field and he's just, whether he's dogging it or maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. But if he wants to get on that field, if he's tired of hearing all the fans on social media criticizing him and everything, then go out there and show it. That's all you can do. I think there was probably nobody more excited than me when we signed Kenny Golladay. I thought he would be perfect for Daniel. I thought that big-bodied outside wide receiver was an absolute gem of a fit, and so far it hasn't worked out. I was excited to get in a new offensive system, especially with Dable and Kafka, who come from great offensive schemes in Buffalo and Kansas City. I thought it would do wonders, but through 2 weeks, and even you saw it in the preseason where he played in the last preseason game with the backups, that was kind of telling right there.
Yeah.
I think if he can turn it on, that would be unbelievable for us, because that would only enhance our offense. But I definitely agree. Steve, I don't know what more you got to say to that, but I think we're all pretty much right in line with our thoughts here.
I think he's going to be released in the offseason.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to do it this year.
Yeah.
It's just too big of a hit.
It almost didn't make sense, right? Yeah.
They're going to release him. I remember the days when I became a huge Giant fan in the 80s, and I got to see Lawrence Taylor and George Martin and all those great Giants play, and Phil Simms. And in the years since, when they retired and when they were interviewed, Leonard Marshall, George Martin, Bart Oates, one of the things that those guys always harken back to, Mark Bavaro and Carl Banks talk about their camp battles back in those days, is they always said the games were easy because they beat the piss out of each other in practice. Now you can't practice anymore the way, you know, 2 days. And we all know how, the things have changed. But I think a guy like Dable, who worked with Nick Saban and some, Belichick, those guys Belichick coached the Giants with Bill Parcells. I think their mentality still goes back to them, those days. People wonder how Bill Belichick gets these defensive players to be so good. Some of it's coaching and teaching. And I think there's just a lot of hard practicing too. And so I think the reason I say all that is to say, I think there's a mentality with these guys, which was perfect in a way for them to come in and say, we're going to get the respect of these players. We're not going to favor anyone. I don't care if you're Saquon Barkley, you're going to earn it. And clearly Saquon's earned his playing time. I think that's earned the respect of the locker room, and how you practice is how you play. So when you get to the game, like they did back in the day, the game should be easy because of how you practice. And I think one thing we've seen with Golladay is he seems to play lazy. Carl, I know you brought it up last season quite a bit. I argued a little bit because I thought he was actually making some great plays at times last season. But when I think about it, I think you're right. You know, this guy, they talked to guys, am I wrong? Did they talk about it in the preseason? How there was just that one bomb that Daniel had to him during one of the practices. But other than that, people are like, Golladay really didn't do much in practices during summer and OTAs and then preseason. I
Thought
think
a
there's
lot of that.
something, I think there's something to all that. So listen, this sucks, man. This guy was supposed to be our number one wide receiver. I don't think the fans are happy. I think we're all just disgusted with it. I know, and my final thought is there's also been a lot of back and forth. I know Bobby and Justin have talked about, Bobby's talked about, I don't want to hear that it doesn't fit the system. A guy like that should fit any system. I agree, but I also wonder, like, because the guys this smart could have figured out a way to use him and have. I mean, they have a Sills who's like a like mini version of him in a way. But this offense is based upon pre-snap motion, post-snap motion, certain types of routes. I don't know. I think they're trying to change the culture, and I think that's part of what they're doing is playing guys who earn it. And I think Dable's been consistent about that. I think in that instance, he's telling us the truth.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I like his honesty with it. He goes, listen, that wide receiver room is an open competition every week. And what we see on the practice field is that's who gets to play. And clearly you see that David Sills and Richie James are outshining a Kadarius Toney, a Kenny Golladay in practice. And we're seeing them play 80%, 90% of the snaps. And I'm not gonna sit here and hate on a coach that is telling us what's gonna happen and then going out and doing it. So I don't think it's a personal vendetta against Kenny Golladay. I think it's just those guys are earning it more than he is. And that's a testament to the coaching that what they see is what you're going to play. You want to fight for your spot in practice? You got it. You go play. Yeah. If I'm going to see the effort you're putting out on this practice field Tuesday through Friday, Tuesday through Saturday, that ain't it. You ain't playing on Sunday. Right. But with David Sills, an undrafted rookie who spent how many years on a practice squad, is going out there and busting his ass every single second of every single practice, getting paid $100,000, whatever it is, $1 million. You know what I'm saying? And you can't even show up and lace his cleats. Like, no, this just something off. And again, that is how you build a culture. Other players, they see that. They're like, okay, well, if the second, third highest paid player on this team isn't going to practice and then not play, well, bet your ass I'm going to go out there and bust mine in practice so I can get on that field and show them what I got.
Let me give you a player comparison. They came in and said every player has a clean slate. And I think we could call BS on that initially, be like, oh yeah, come on, whatever. Kenny Golladay, O'Shane Ximines. O'Shane Ximines, excellent, who should have been one of the very first cuts, who was benched, who, if we're being honest, lost us games in the past. Like literally, he was the reason we lost off the top of my head, at least one game last year and then previous. He had nothing to hope. These guys came in and said, clean slate, you work your ass off. We see the potential with you. Wink said, I've done this before. We saw he did it with Zadarius Smith, mid-round pick. We saw he did it with Matt Judon, mid-round pick. You kid, what was he, a third-round pick out of Old Dominion? You got talent, clean slate, go get it, work your ass in the offseason, come in here and do whatever we ask of you to do, go full. And Kenny Golladay, I have to believe that everybody was given a clean slate. Look what O'Shane Ximines has done with this opportunity. And what does that say for Kenny Golladay?
Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic point. It really is. And O'Shane is shining and good for him, because I remember when Final Cuts came out, I was stunned to see that he was still on the roster. Yeah. Stunned. I genuinely was. I didn't think he had a prayer. And you know what? They saw something. They saw it on the practice field. And I couldn't be more happier for, well, there's going to be a player that we're going to talk about next that I want to ask you guys about. But O'Shane's right there as a player. I could not be happier about for him. And I hope it continues. And I honestly think he's going to do even better when Ojulari and Thibodeau come back, because he's not going to be having to play and take the burden of all these snaps. He's going to get a breather, and he's going to come in like a bat out of hell on some of these pass rushing downs. So good for O'Shane. And Steve, that's a great analogy right there.
And they're going to move O'Shane around too, so they're going to free him up a little bit more. But here's part of my disappointment with Kenny Golladay is the fact that, okay, disappointing year last year, fine. Maybe he didn't like Joe Judge. Maybe they didn't get along. Maybe he didn't want to play for Joe Judge. You would have thought with a new coaching staff and the pedigree that this coaching staff brought, that he would have just said, you know what? These are my kind of guys. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to ball out. And it doesn't seem like the light bulb has gone on. And I think the other flip side of this is, and I think you guys both touched on it, Daboll's sending a message. He's sending a message to the rest of the locker room. Number one, this is his team. Like him or not, this is his team. And he's not going to give in to anybody, contract, this, that, or the other thing. You want it, earn it. I'll play you, but you just got to come out and earn it. I think as a coach, that's great. And I actually think the players, most of them, actually respect that.
Oh, yeah.
So, at this point, Golladay is what he is. If we get anything out of him, I think it's gravy. But at the end of the day, this is it for him.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think we can be expecting any much more. We can all hope something clicks, but at this point, no, I don't see it. But speaking of younger players, Carl, Steve, if you don't mind, I want to bring up another guy. I know I sent in 3 questions, but I think we touched a lot on the coaching and the points that we made. So I guess I'll make this my final one for now until if something pops up. But I want your overall thoughts, and I guess not even happiness, obviously, but the emergence of Julian Love. I mean, I was a little surprised that he was voted captain. I'm not going to lie. Like, I liked Julian Love. I thought he was a solid player. But has there been a guy that has benefited more from Wing's system than Julian Love? I mean, this guy, he's all over the field. We talked about it before with the game-ending sack, and he's just become a really, really nice player. And I'm not used to, none of us are used to some of these later round picks actually hitting. And I think it's been a crazy pleasant surprise. I think he is extremely vital now to this defense. When you got him and McKinney back there, we really only thought that we could rely on McKinney, but now I fully rely on and trust Julian Love. He's in the right spot at the right time. Wink has got him all over. He's putting him in the perfect position. So I would love to just hear your overall thoughts on Julian Love and I guess your excitement on how he's turning out to be a fine football player.
Go ahead, Steve.
So three thoughts. I'll be very specific. If you go back and listen to some of the interviews that Julian Love has given over the last year, I can tell you, I don't know why, I actually paid attention to him. He was one of the players, like I very specifically listened. He was very frustrated with the way he's been used since he's been drafted. And he always took the high road. He's so articulate. He's so eloquent.
Yeah, he is.
He's so respectful. But I promise you, I remember often hearing him say he was frustrated, but he was very nuanced with it. Like, he didn't want to have they got rid of Logan Ryan. And I think we were all like, what the hell? Why would you get, I know Bobby and Justin, Bobby's like, oh, yeah. I felt the same way. I was like, man, I don't know, maybe because he was Joe Judge's boy and, he was one of his boys and blah, 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 blah. But like, I think we all assumed it only had to do with Xavier. And I think now we're realizing it wasn't just about Xavier.
No, this is a good point.
We were all guilty, myself included. Oh, it's all about X-Man, and now he's going to be wearing the green dot and da. It's allowing Julian Love to flourish too, I think. And sometimes it's like you ever be in a room with someone who's hysterical or super smart and successful, but and they suck the oxygen out of the room. And sometimes that person needs to be removed from the room to let other people kind of shine a little bit. Doesn't mean that person's bad. Doesn't mean that person's not gifted in whatever ways they're gifted. It's just sometimes you need to let other people have their moment and shine. And then the third thing is, remember, there were only a couple of coaches they kept, and one of them was their defensive backs coach, to the point that Wink has said, and I don't know if it was Daboll as well, but I know Wink has said, they asked him during the preseason what he thought of the staff and blah, blah, blah. He said, no, Jerome is I'm telling you, he's one of the best defensive back coaches in the NFL. He may or may not be, but they've propped him up. They've talked about how important he is and how gifted as a coach. So I think the groundwork was there. I'm just as guilty as anyone for not having seen it. He's played every position and he hated it. And I think a guy like Wink came in and said, listen, brother, we love that you've been moved around. And we're going to take that very thing that frustrated you and you're going to blow it up. Let us help you. So I agree with you. All those things surprised me as well. But when we look at the evidence, I'm like, man, this shouldn't be such a shock, I guess.
It was right there, yeah, in front of our eyes. And it's truly, again, it goes back to that testament of coaching and even the front office. Like maybe they what they saw, they're like, okay. And I really like that point of being in the room with somebody and they just suck the air out. And Logan Ryan, I was stunned by that too, didn't like it.
Yeah.
But he's a huge personality, and he's going to take shine away from that Julian Love. So he's gone and Julian Love steps in, and I'm loving the emergence of him. And I think he's taken the confidence the front office and the coaching staff put in him, and he's making them look great. And I think he's finally broken out of his shell. He's got his role that he likes. He's happy and he's excelling. And to your first point, Steve, yeah, what a nice kid he is, all these things. And he showed frustration. I briefly mentioned it before, and he was on with Tiki and Tierney this morning. I was listening and he was saying just that. He goes, I could not be more happy. Wink is putting me in a spot that he knows I'll be successful in. And to his interviews last year, again, that frustration was clearly there with the last coaching staff. So just a complete 180. So I love it. I love every second of it. And that's just an easy guy to root for.
So there's a couple words that come to mind for me when I think about Julian Love. One, and Snacks, you mentioned it, it's confidence. But not only confidence that the coaching staff has in him, he's now got more confidence in himself because these guys are they're using him to his strengths, and he's going out and playing. He's not overthinking, he's just playing, and that's building his confidence. And I guarantee you're going to see more of that. The other word that comes to mind was overshadowing, to the point about Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan overshadowed a lot of that secondary. I think getting rid of Logan Ryan is why you're seeing the emergence of a Dory Jackson. You're seeing Julian Love playing a bigger role and playing a more confident role. So I think that's also big. And the third part of that comes to my mind is Dane Belton.
Yeah.
I think you've got now another player back there that's got skills that, okay, he's definitely not on Xavier McKinney's level yet. He's probably not yet on Julian Love's level. However, he's got the talent, and he showed very well in his first game Sunday.
He had a great game.
So, right. So you've got a player back there now that everybody else has confidence in, and his confidence is building. But you've got a guy back there that you can keep back there and let him roam around, and you can now move around Julian Love. You can now move around Xavier McKinney to make other plays, and you can get them more involved in the game plan, in the scheme of it. And I think all that's coming together, and then you're now seeing Julian Love blossom. I mean, look, he went to Notre Dame. He did very good at Notre Dame. And we always, I can't tell you how many conversations we always had about Julian Love, and Steve, you and I have only been doing this for a short time, but, people speaking, prior to doing the podcast, Julian Love's a really good player. He always seems to show up when they play him. So I think the talent was always there. These guys just finally tapped into it and said, all right, we're going to start using this. We're going to use you better. And I think all that combined coming together, and you're really seeing this player really develop and come to his own now.
Yeah, it really is an awesome thing to see. And it just really, like you guys were saying, like we've been saying all show, it goes back to the coaching and I've always liked Julian Love. I thought, and Carl, you just said the point, when he's been given the chance to play, he has played. I don't remember sitting there saying, wow, we lost that game because Julian Love was terrible. Julian Love sucked this game. No, could say that about 4 dozen other players over the last 4 years since he's
Right.
been here, but not him. And he is, I think he is, the captain thing, I think was a huge tell for me when I'm like, okay, maybe this guy really is gonna step up this year. Cause I was a little surprised. I knew that, that he's well respected, he's well spoken, he's obviously he's got a good pulse in the locker room. But that captain status was a big deal for me. And I know we have like 10 captains, I get it. But that one was probably the most random to me. I don't want to say random like that, but maybe the most out of left field type of thing. And I guess the writing was on the wall there. And Steve, to your point, it was right in front of our face, and we just didn't see it. But I'm glad we're seeing it now. And like this guy, I keep bringing up like radio shows in New York because I listen all the time, but they don't bring on schlubs for interviews for these shows. Right. And he's got a prime spot at 11:40 every Tuesday with Tiki and Tierney, and that's one of the biggest shows in the New York market. So they believe in him. He's getting his credit around the city, around the media. So I think he's great, and I couldn't be more happy for him. And I'm glad.
Who had the most snaps in the game on Sunday on special teams?
On special teams,
Carl may have it in front of him. I have a feeling.
Oh shoot, I don't have this
I
one.
don't, but I'm either thinking Brightwell or Zimenez.
So Julian Love played more snaps on specials than anyone. 19.
Wow.
Did not know that.
You know what? We should have known that because we were just talking about it.
You know what? Really, he threw us a softball.
I thought he was trying to trick us.
Number two was Williams, the running back, at 17,
Okay.
tied with Brightwell, the 2 running backs, which goes back to why when we were a little miffed that they didn't keep that really neat little shifty Florida State running back, we're all hoping that, and then it was because of specials. Remember we talked about that in the preseason, like, listen, it's going to be because of specials.
Right.
Those 2 guys played the second most at 17, and then Chris Myrick, the tight end, played 16.
Nice.
So, yeah, Julian Love.
So he's not just flying around on defense making game-changing plays. He's doing the dirty work on special teams. God damn, man.
And I think that's why
confidence.
And that's where, man, it goes back to what I was saying before about Kenny Golladay and the players see through the bull crap. You know what I mean? The BS. Like, there's a reason players elected captains or not. Like they know which coaches are good. They know which players are bringing it. Like they know.
Yeah,
we don't know. They think we know, but the
right,
players,
exactly, and they know much better than us. They have the pulse of everybody in there. So, and Julian, listen. It's pretty wild, but he's one of the most tenured Giants on that team right now. So yeah, exactly. So it's really awesome to see where he's coming.
Wasn't Love named an alternate captain by the players and not the coaches? I believe.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
I believe his captaincy came from players.
Yeah, the players vote for it, not the coaches.
Right. So that again, that builds confidence. My team believes in me. My coaches believe in me. You know what? I'm just going to go be me.
Yep. I'm going to go be me. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to show what I did in college. Right. And he was a great college ball player at Notre Dame. And it's all translating now. So, Julian, good for you, my friend.
So guys, very quickly, we're kind of up against it here. So predictions for Monday night. What do you guys think? Let's go.
I'm not going first, man.
I'll go first.
Oh my God.
I am usually a pessimist, and I always think that I always think we're gonna lose because I like to be surprised when we win. But the vibes are just too good right now. I think Cooper Rush just played the game of his life against the AFC champion Bengals at home. I don't think that gets replicated again. I think Wink, now that he's got another game of film on him, he's going to have a plan. It looks like Thibodeau is going to be back. I think the Giants win this game 23-20.
Ooh, you just killed me there. All right. That's not nice what you just did there, Snacks, but okay. Steve, what do you got?
I thought the first game we were going to lose, but I said, don't be surprised if we upset them. And we won. I said the second game we were going to win, and I thought it was going to be a high-scoring affair. And again, once again, it was anything but. So what does that? what should that teach us? What that teaches us is our recipe seems to be, we're not going to be in a shootout. Our defense is going to hold. So what that tells me is my concern, and it's going to come down to specials, which this game did, right? We got the turnovers. I think our specials, and by the way, Richie James is going to return a kickoff for a touchdown. It's just a question of when. I don't know when, but that kid's going to,
marking that down.
yeah, he's going to
So when it does happen, I'm going to clip this video. Everybody knows Steve was right.
He's going to return one for a touchdown this season. I'm feeling we're going to win 27-23. I'm worried about that pass rush, man. But I think I'm worried about DeMarcus Lawrence going against Evan Neal. I think they're going to move Parsons. I'm worried about that.
Parsons, yeah.
I think we can run it down their throat. I mean, we're going to run it down their throat. They can't stop the run like these last two teams. That's a fact. But their pass rush can be fierce. They got Diggs who's starting to. Diggs has learned how to tackle now. He's coming up and supporting the run like he's never done before. So you could see what Diggs worked on in the offseason. I'm worried, but I think we're going to win 27-23.
Love it.
Giants 20-17.
Probably more realistic.
I agree that I think Dallas's defense is a lot better and stronger than people give them credit for. And I think this matchup is going to come with some challenges. I expect the offense to be a little choppy again this week, to be very honest with you. I think this defense is sneaky good. So given that, the key is going to be controlling the ball, time of possession. So, Steve, to your point, run Saquon right down their throat. I would run Saquon right at Micah Parsons all night long, is what I would neutralize it, because off the ball, he's like he's shot out of a cannon. So I would go at him all game long. I'd go away from Micah Lawrence. And I don't expect a lot of downfield passing. So again, I just think it's going to be time of possession and ball control, low scoring game, 20-17 Giants.
Old school football. Yep.
I'll take
Look for more plays to Brightwell at running back. He doesn't dance. He hits the hole hard.
Yes.
What you saw that one play, he actually did a ton of that in the preseason. He was awesome in the preseason. I got ripped on Twitter because I said he was a beast. People are like, Brightwell's a beast. Isn't that? I'm like, dude, for him, he was a beast in the preseason. He can run it. He's more of a just north-south.
Yeah.
And this is the matchup against this team. I think they may spell Saquon and he may get 5 or 10. One thing we've seen with them, whether it's Kadarius Toney hardly playing in the first game and then they ease him in, they're like, all right, we're feeling more comfortable with Kadarius. I think you're going to see Brightwell a little bit more. And I think our defense has a chance to feast on this team because if Thibodeau plays, they only have one good wide receiver. I know the other wide receivers shockingly had a Noah Brown. They're like, oh my God, these guys came out of nowhere. I think with that 3 Snacks, to your point, with that 3 safety set and Carl, your boy Belton back now, I think they're going to match up against those tight ends. Dallas for 30 years has always had great. The tight ends always kill us. They have good tight ends once again, but I think we finally have the defense to match against those tight ends. And Snacks, to your point, Cooper Rush, dude, this ain't Cincinnati, baby. You get ready for Winks blitzing, because especially if Thibodeau's back, I hope Leo, I don't know. I don't think Leo's.
I think he's going to do everything in his power, but I think he's going to miss his first game of his career, which sucks. I mean, the guy.
And that's a concern because you know what? Our run defense has been stout with him in the line of scrimmage. So,
yeah.
And look, I cannot stand Ezekiel Elliott. If he has a big game while I'm up there attending the game, I'm just going to lose my shit. So
he's not even their number one running back now. You got to be more worried about Pollard.
I said on Twitter today, I'm more concerned about Pollard than I am Zeke, to be honest.
Oh, me too.
So,
Pollard's more dynamic.
Right. But, I could see Dallas trying to exploit that. But, I could see Wink trying to exploit the fact that Cooper Rush is not a starting quarterback in this league, and he's going to throw everything at him.
Yep, he's going to throw the whole the house, the kitchen
Giants,
sink.
You guys heard it here first. Mark.
Look, all I have to say is I'm so freaking jealous, you guys. You're going to have such a good time. It's going to be freaking insane. And this is going to be the first primetime Monday night game in years that we have a winning record. The fans are expecting good things. We have exciting young players. We have a coach that we believe in. And you guys are going to be there drinking and hugging and having a good time. And I'm so jealous. So I expect some good stories.
We'll have plenty for you, Steve. Don't worry. We'll make sure to we'll make sure to toast one for you.
I just hope I have a voice for next week's show, Steve.
Worry about that next week, Carl.
Exactly right. Hey, Stacks, a lot of fun tonight. We really appreciate the time. This was great.
I really appreciate your time. You guys keep killing it. The knowledge and all the things combined is off the charts. So really appreciate you having me on. I'm glad we finally were able to do it. Let's go Giants, baby.
Absolutely. Steve, always a pleasure, my friend.
Same here, big guy. You as
All
well.
right, brother. Everybody, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the show. And hopefully next week we're talking about a 3-0 team. Have a good night, everybody.